American football in Finland.
The voice in your
Yep.
ears is Perfect Pervis, and welcome to another episode of American Football in Finland. Today, I have a guest co-host with me, Finland's national team head coach and football enthusiast, Tuomas Heikkinen. Tuomas, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. Good to be on.
Yeah, it's always good to have other football minds on so we can kind of, get a balanced view of what's going on in Finland. We're
Yep.
going to jump right into the games. Let's just talk about the games. First game that was on Thursday, we had the Royals who ended up winning against the Saints 47-32. The game was a little bit closer than what you thought it would be with the Saints having brand new imports, the Royals having less imports than normal. What were your thoughts about it, Tuomas?
Uh, I followed the game I didn't see the whole of it, but I just kept following it. It was on the computer and I had to do other things at the same time. But it seemed to me that first of all the Saints have found good new import players, so I'm looking for them to improve later on in the season because the quarterback looks like an athlete, and so does running back. I think the game was it was pretty clear for the Royals, but then the numbers are what they are. So I think the Royals won it convincingly, but the Saints are probably going to be a little better during the next month or two than they've been so far.
Yeah, for me, it was really surprising that, like you said, like this group of imports seems to be better fit for this type of style that they play. But I mean, they
Yeah,
they lost their EU imports. I guess they sent them home, or however the hell that situation went. But the guy that stuck out to me was I'm gonna try to say his name right, but I might say it wrong. CJ Okpalopi, I think is how you say his
yeah,
name.
yeah,
Well,
yeah. I guess so.
he was phenomenal. Like he just instantly made an impact both on the offense and the
Mm,
defensive side. Like as a returner,
yeah,
like he was making big plays, and that's what the Saints have been missing pretty much all year. And
yeah,
even the
true.
quarterback, yeah, even the quarterback Raymond Cotton, he played sparingly, and I think that had to do with them getting there like the day before the game. But when he was in, he was
Yeah,
good. He had a hell of
yeah,
an arm. He could run with the ball. He's a little bit bigger of a guy, but he's athletic, like you said. And then Munchie Roberts, who played in Division One last year, I mean, he is who he is. He actually led the league in tackles this week, playing defense. Had 10 and a
mm,
half tackles, so that was impressive. And he still had
mm,
over 100 yards receiving. So the Saints showed a lot of good things considering they lost. I mean, the Royals were the better team, and they showed that again. And I've been really impressed with how Tom Swosti has played this year. Basically, just consistently getting over 100 yards rushing. He almost had 200 in this one, and he's just
yeah.
really coming into his own this year as one of the best finished running backs and also one of the best running backs in the league. But the Royals looked good. I think they still were trying to figure out the import situation. Mark Millen was playing offense, but he looked better than the guy they had earlier, so it's not a drop off. And I think they'll probably get a few more imports in the next couple of weeks, anyways, to fill out those spots that they had guys leave.
Yeah, and it was one of those games where when you get a new quarterback in the middle of the season and he hits his plum, he hits, I guess he had arrived the day before, like you said. So what can you expect? It's going to be the first game is going to be a mess. But he's definitely an athlete, and it's going to be exciting to see what he's capable of doing. And then for the Royals, I don't know. It's like you said, Tom Swaste is having a career year. He's
Yeah,
really running hard, and he's fun to watch. He really grinds it. But somehow I'm still waiting for the Royals offense to set up, establish some kind of rhythm because it looks to me that they can, set things up by running the ball hard, but then they can't seem to capitalize, after
yeah.
that, they have miscues. They're dropping footballs. The receivers are not running where they're supposed to, I guess, where they're supposed to go and on some of the play actions, that kind of thing. So they need to clean it up in order to be a real contender for the playoffs, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm just last thing I'm gonna say about that too is you're exactly right with the Royals offense. Their running game is doing well, so you would think that it's gonna set up the passing game. And even though DeAndre Borrell had a lot of yards in this game against the Saints defense kind of just gave it up on the defensive side.
Yep,
But their passing
yep.
game was not as great as it should have been, and that's one thing that, like you said, I'm 100% agreeing. They have to fix that if they want to be successful and make it to the playoffs or even in the playoffs. But
Yep.
moving on to the next game of the weekend, this was a blowout game, but it still was a good game to watch. Helsinki Roosters beat the Porvoo Butchers 53-20.
That was that was one of those games when it started. Like the Butchers, they throw down the field, they have one huge play, but then they just managed to keep the drive alive, and then wound up with nothing. I guess they died at the 2 yard line or whatever, and then that was a 6.5 minutes, and considering that the numbers is outrageous, towards the end of the game. So the Roosters got their machine going, and then there was only one team on the field. That was I was maybe a little disappointed. Roosters are strong; they're a good team again this year. But I was expecting more from the Butchers than they were able to give on that day. And then even though it's not far away, they're a traveling team, and it's not the first time that the Butchers have not played really strong at Velo. So I guess that's part of the reason. But I was a little disappointed after the game. I was expecting more of the Butchers, even though some of them played hard and they have good athletes and everything. But as a team, they did not execute.
I definitely agree with you there. Like the thing about the Butchers in this game was that it seemed like they didn't have what it takes to overcome that stigma of, oh, it's the Roosters. Like you said, they got down there into the red zone and weren't able to finish it off early in the game, and that kind of set the tone. Like, oh, it doesn't matter how good the Butchers play in this game. I think that first drive they drove 75 yards down the field and got no points out
Yep,
of it. Like that's
yep,
demoralizing, and that's kind of how they played the game. Was we can compete with these guys. They were competing with the Roosters, but eventually, when they needed those plays, they just didn't have it. It just seemed that whole big brother mentality. Like the Butchers have been beaten by the Roosters so much recently that they're just kind of into that. I'm still of the mindset that the two most successful Maple League programs are the Butchers and the Roosters. So the Butchers, I think they need to have that kind of mindset when they play these games. Like, hey, we are the Butchers, and you got to step up and make that a thing. Right now, it seems like the Roosters were in their head because before this game, I said it that the Butchers had a chance, and early in the game they did, and they blew it, and then it just got out of hand. But credit to the Roosters. I mean, we're talking a lot about the Butchers not playing well, but credit to the Roosters. Miro had a career game when he threw for almost 300 yards, 7 touchdowns. And Young
yeah.
Kari rushed for 200. 2 bills, Young Kari. That's always good. And obviously, all the receivers
Hmm.
had hundreds of yards and touchdowns. They really put on a show offensively for the first time this year. So that was good to see. The Roosters put up a 50 burger, getting ready for the Wolverines. That's kind of how they need to be playing, is at the highest level that they can.
Oh, definitely. And then like I can't say enough of Karri Pajarinen. He's still very young, and
Yeah, very
he's the
young.
most promising running back I've seen in a long time. He runs really. I mean, like he's got the skills, he's got the speed, he's got the power. He's a complete running back already at that age. So he's fun to watch, and also I'm very very happy for Miro because I've seen him. Like he's had I followed him for obviously for a long time, and he's had a couple of hard years when he was not able to play quarterback and all this and that, and now he's on top of the league as national quarterback. So I'm really happy for those guys.
Yeah, I definitely think the Roosters played great, and it's just going to be interesting to see them play this weekend. We'll
Yep.
get to the third game of the weekend. We had the Helsinki Wolverines kind of just dominate the Kuopio Steelers 54-21. What were your thoughts on that one?
At the end of the day, if you look at the stats, the stats and the scoreboard, they don't match. It's like the only
Yep.
thing that I watched that one real closely because it was a tough game of the week, obviously, and I wanted to see where those teams were at, at this point of the season. And it's always hard for a traveling team. They come from far away, and that's also the same for. It's an advantage for them for somebody to have to travel up there. But it felt to me that they had left something on the bus. It's
Exactly. Exactly.
they didn't really show up. And then
Yep.
so I looked at the stats, and I'm looking at what they call like explosive plays, like
Hmm.
rushes of more than 12 yards and or 12 more, or passes of 18 or more.
Hmm.
And at one point, the Wolverines were up 8-2 in the category, and you just can't handle that. You give up huge plays, you give up a big field position, and then against a team like the Wolverines, they're gonna run away.
Yep.
So that's exactly what happened. And then I was impressed by the way the Wolverines defense, their pass defense especially, how they were able to shut down the Steelers offense for the first half, all of it. So Peters had pretty much nothing, and he's a good quarterback, and they have a good passing game. But what they were left, like pretty much, empty-handed
Yeah.
in the first half, and
That's
the game was
definitely
over at that time.
That's definitely
Mm,
what I was saying from it. With the Steelers offense, they're predicated on the fact that okay, we run the ball so well that you have to respect that, and that gives us the advantage in the pass game. And that's
yeah,
like you said earlier, you're talking about big plays,
yeah,
explosive plays. You're talking about explosive
yeah,
plays. That's how the
yeah,
Steelers work is they run the ball. They'll have two or three big runs, but then they'll have, four or five big passes based off
yeah,
of the run. The play action
yeah,
from Seth is what they really like. That's their bread and butter. Is he puts his hands out like it's a run, looks up, and maybe there's a double move. The double move, it actually even worked in this game, but Tino dropped the ball. That's what they were missing in this game. Like, it didn't look like the Kuopio Steelers. They went into this game, the same looks that they usually get weren't there, and it seemed like they didn't have anything set up for it. Like, you had situations where they're throwing a fade ball to a guy who's barely like he got one step on the defender, and the defender makes a play on the ball, so that play's
yeah,
not there, and they just kept going back to it, and they never got those explosive plays. They had the one long run, and I mean that was pretty much it. The one long run from
yeah.
Gerard Johnson, and I was still surprised he still had over 100 yards rushing, but it mostly came from that one long run. He wasn't very efficient or successful in this game, and that's because the Wolverines' defensive line kind of outmatched the Steelers' offensive line, and that was something that you knew going into the game. But what really, like you said, what really stood out is the Wolverines' defense, their secondary, those cornerbacks, TJ, Terrell Johnson, and Eric Irvin, they locked those receivers down.
Yeah.
The biggest matchup that really stood out to me was the fact that Johannes Johannen
Hmm.
almost never got off the jam against Terrell Jackson. Like he almost
Yep.
got no passes thrown to him, and he rarely was anywhere downfield when he tried to get off the line because TJ was
Yeah.
playing man defense, press man, and a few times
Yeah.
he even ran him out of bounds on the press. Like
Yeah. True.
that was
True.
surprising because he's a good receiver, but I feel like he met his match in this game, and that's what really like proved the difference was that Seth was looking for receivers, but no one was open. Wolverines had them all
Yeah. And
cloaked.
the other thing is also that I think Chabari and Charles Ward, I think they both create some kind of like they're both fast.
Yeah,
So now it's like they are vacating the area that RPO area. It's like it seemed to me that the way Kari Titola had set their defense was like he was making it hard for Seth Peters to make the right reads or make the right calls with his RPO system.
yeah,
So like not saying he did anything wrong, but they were able to mess up his timing. Like it's surprisingly okay. I'm there. No, I'm here. That kind of speed that they have, and
true.
like and I guess that's one of the big advantages the Wolverines have right now that they really have a lot of like imported skill and speed on the defensive side of the ball, and it's a good thing for them.
Yeah, the last thing I'm saying about it was kind of just going back to what you said at the beginning. We don't even have to talk about the Wolverines because everybody knows they have a lot of great players. They played really well. Kudos to them. But the biggest story was that the Steelers just didn't show up.
Yeah,
And even like Seth, like there was a lot of throws that he made that you're just like, why would he do that? Like he would never do that. Even the two times he threw the interceptions, it kind of looked like he just threw it out there.
Yeah,
And that's not his
yeah,
game, but that's kind of how he played in this one. And in the second half, the Steelers didn't come out and attack or try to play any differently. Like it seemed like the second half they came out and they're like, you know what, we're just gonna wait till we go to Kuopio, and they just went through
yeah,
the motions in that second half. And that, I mean, personally, the shit pisses me off. But I know they have their own plan, but it's a football game. You don't just, say, okay, we're done. I was actually in the stands, so I was on the Steelers sideline for most of the game. In the beginning of the game, after everything that went wrong, like in the first quarter, they actually were hanging in the game. They just didn't capitalize on an
hmm
interception, and they dropped the
hmm
touchdown pass. So it could have been a closer game, and then it kind of got away from them. But after everything that went wrong, they would constantly go to the sideline. You'd hear motivational speeches and all the stuff that goes with it, but then there were no results on the field. And like you said, it's like they
yeah,
left something on their bus. And for me, it's disheartening because I said this game was going to be close. I said these are two of the best teams in the league. And then the Steelers went out and laid an egg. And I'm upset about it because that's not the Steelers team that I'm accustomed to seeing. I'm just a little
yeah.
upset about it. Sorry.
But that's gonna be a great test, like because the Wolverines are going to Kuopio in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, that's
So
going to be.
and now the time between, of course, there's a huge game between between the Wolverines and the Roosters coming up. But after that, I think it comes down to like I'm gonna say it straight. It's gonna come down to the coaching. It's gonna come down to the preparation. It's gonna come
Mhm.
down to who's gonna learn what of the first game, and it's gonna be that game up in Kuopio is gonna be a great measure for the level of coaching and the level of ability to prepare and then execute in a game. So that's gonna be a huge game to watch when the Wolverines go up there.
Yeah, and that's it. That's in a 2 week period. Wolverines have a
Yeah,
tough schedule. They play the Kuopio Steelers at home. This week they have a Thursday game against the Roosters, and then the next
yeah,
Saturday they're going to Kuopio. So for
yeah.
them, they're playing three straight weeks of tough football right after the midsummer break.
True, true,
But I
true.
agree with you 100%. When they go to Kuopio, and even after everything I just said about the Steelers, I expect it to be a much closer game in Kuopio.
Oh, it's gonna be a hell of a game for sure.
Steelers have a great coaching staff. I think they're gonna adjust, like you said, learn from this game and come out with a different plan. I just think they just didn't have it in them in this one. Like it just didn't look like the team that we're used to seeing.
Yeah, but they'll be fine. They're
All right, I'm here with Helsinki Roosters wide receiver, running back, returner, All American, everything they need for them, Adam Connette. Adam, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me.
Before we get into the serious questions, first question I want to know is you've been rocking a Chuck Taylor red tape job on your cleats, shoes, whatever you've been wearing. Go through the process. How do you make those things?
My trainer in high school taught me how to do it. It's basically like a normal spat, and then you just go a little bit further, and it takes a little more effort cutting out the little laces and cutting out the little circles that you put on the inside. So, I mean, it takes a little more time than a normal spat, but
But it's the swag is phenomenal. I was watching, me and my wife watching. I'm like, hold up, is he wearing Chuck? Nah, those aren't Chucks. That's a tape job. But is it a tape job? It's so nice. Like it don't look like like you got skill. I tell you that.
thank you, thank you. Yeah,
Experience at the tape job, and the circle on the inside, like the true Chucks. That was what really got my attention. 'Cause I was like, hold up, the circle's on the inside. Well, he must know what he's doing. He
yeah,
experienced a spat job. But let's get into the questions, man. You guys play the Wolverines this week. Big game, right?
huge game.
Biggest game of this Maple League season so far. So first question I want to ask is your offense. What do you guys need to focus on in this game? What do you guys need to do to be successful against the Wolverines defense?
I mean, we just got to focus on what we've been doing all year is blocking good, getting good runs, and then opening up the pass for Miro to throw the ball. Basically, what we've been doing all year is running, passing. That's you just got to stick to what we know. We can't try and do too much and force bad turnovers or anything like that.
What player or group on the Wolverines do you think is their strength for their defensive unit?
I mean, it's kind of hard to pick. They have so many imports everywhere that it's
Mm-hmm.
like it's kind of hard to say like, well, this is a weak spot of their defense because they got a bunch of imports on D line and linebackers at DBs. I'd say that the strongest thing is probably their DBs. I've never played against him, but number 8, I believe his last name is Jackson.
Terrell
I've
Jackson.
heard,
Yeah.
yes, I've heard a whole lot about him. Never played against him. Looks good on film, so I'd probably say he's the better player on that defense.
That is so true. You don't hear a lot about his name because he hasn't played in a while, but he still got it.
Yeah.
Obviously, y'all have to feel like you can come away with a win in this game. So, what matchup do you think is going to be the deciding factor for you guys if either you win or lose, depending on a certain matchup?
It's not going to come down to the skill guys necessarily. It's going to come down to the trenches, O-line, D-line. That'll be the big part of the game because our offense won't be able to work, obviously, if we can't get blocking, and our defense won't be able to do anything if they're getting blocked downfield. So it all comes down to the trenches, I think.
If you had to pick one thing, what would you consider as an advantage that your offense has against this defense?
Advantage we've got a really good running back in Kari. So that's someone that we can hang our hat on, and a great finish. I think probably one of the top European running backs is Kari.
Young Cuddy, that's for sure. You, Adam Connette, you've been put in a lot of different roles this year. You played a little bit of running back before Kari got there, and now you're sticking more to receiver and returner now. What do you individually need to do to make sure that the Roosters play the best game they can this weekend?
I mean, basically just go wherever the Roosters want me at. If they want me just playing receiver and making plays there, then I got to do that. I got to be better on the return game, obviously. So just whatever the team wants me to do, I'll do for them.
Okay, this is a little extra bonus question.
All right.
What do you think about their offense?
It's a
Go ahead.
high-powered offense. I mean, look at all the imports they have. I would be pretty disappointed if it wasn't a high-powered offense. They got imports everywhere. I mean, the whole team. I mean, everyone's so shocked that they're undefeated and stuff. Well, they got a lot of imports, a lot of dual passport guys. So
Obviously, like you said, they have a lot of pass imports. Their offense is high powered. You can't say an exact one, obviously, but do you think this is going to be like a high scoring game, a back and forth battle, or you think it's going to be more about who can score just enough points?
I'm really not sure. I mean, I think weather might play a part in it. If it's a rainy, I mean, we got a crazy rainy day today. If we get that on Thursday, it could shape how the scores are going to be because there won't be as much passing around and easy catches. It could be that both teams just come out and just start putting up points like crazy. So I mean, I'm not exactly sure. It kind of depends on what team shows up for both of us.
That totally makes sense. Well, Adam Connette, appreciate you coming on the podcast. As usual, it's always great interviewing you and wish you and the Roosters best of luck this weekend.
Thank you very much.
Cheers to the freaking weekend.
Maple League teams are back in action on Thursday with the Wolverines versus Roosters, and then the Royals play the Crocs on Friday, and the Saints and the Butchers play on Saturday. Before we even talk about these games, later we'll have the Pick'em come up. Right now for the Pick'em, everybody is tied at 12-3, and I'm in last because I'm 11-4. So all the picks like really close. Like we've all pretty much picked the same ones except for a few times. I think the Swami picked a different team the first week, and then me and Swami picked a different team the week before last, something like that.
All right.
But those picks can be found on the Podium's Facebook page, Perfect Pervis Facebook page, and the Perfect Pervis website. So with this weekend coming up, Coach, what are some things that you're excited to see in this weekend of games?
Well, first of all, the Wolverines Roosters game is going to be huge. That's a great matchup on Thursday, and really looking forward to seeing that one. So I guess we'll talk about it a little more. But I think for the other two games, even though they, like quite frankly, they're not at the same level as the first one is, but it's a crucial game for the Royals when they go up against the Crocodiles. They need to, they really need to try to win that one. And then I guess the Saturday game is the same story for both teams. They both need to turn their season around right now in order to have a respectful year. There's a lot at stake. I would even say that there's more at stake with the Royals Crocodiles game and the Saints Butchers game, because the Wolverines and the Roosters, they both look like easily look like playoff teams right now. It's just a matter of who's going to take the points at this point of the season, and that makes it huge.
The
To
Royals
see
are
that play.
2-3, and the Crocodiles are 2-2. So the winner of that game is most likely going to be in like fourth place. While you have the
Yep.
Butchers, the Butchers have one win, and the Saints have zero. So if the Saints win
Yeah.
that game, now you're looking at a change there. So you're right. Like these are all really close games. You got the first
Yeah.
and second place team because the Roosters are 3-1 and the Wolverines are 4-0. So if the Roosters win that
Yeah.
game, the Wolverines will drop to second. Roosters will go to first. Steelers are still
Yeah.
being third. Like
Yeah.
lots of huge games going on. I'm excited, obviously, about the Wolverines and Roosters because they
Yeah.
play on July 4th, which is a holiday where I'm from. Independence Day for the
Oh,
USA.
that's right.
Yeah,
That's right. Yeah.
so that'll be fun to kind of see. I mean, the Wolverines have a lot of Americans, so it'll be great to see a lot of Americans playing on the American holiday. But I,
Yeah.
I definitely think that the games will be really good this week. What I'm interested with the Wolverines and Roosters game is what the biggest question that everybody always has when you play the Wolverines is how do you stop their offense? And I'm going to ask you, Coach, because I mean you're coach minded and you're defensive minded, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So give me your idea of what the Roosters would have to do on defense to stop Rojo and his offense.
Well, it's like Robert's offense is like it's very simple, but it's deadly effective. So everybody knows the combinations and the concepts that they run. They like the basic air raid stuff that that's been around for a long time already. And Kalle Karppinen of the Roosters, he knows exactly inside out. He knows what's going to happen. But
Yep.
it's not just that you know what's going to happen. You need to stop it too. And I think there's probably I would say two things. First of all, the Roosters have the fastest D line again in the league. Like
Okay.
they have people who are fast who can get to the quarterback, so they can probably limit Robert's time, like to a certain amount. And then also is that I think that they are so damn disciplined in everything they do, so they're gonna be in the right positions and they're gonna know their assignments. It's just a matter of trying to execute. And with that said, it's like I would try to look for anything that will reveal that like is there something you can do about Robert's passing rhythm? Is there something that William Young, when he runs the ball, does he have preferences, like where he wants to cut, when he wants to cut or jump to the outside, and look into the players more than the schemes, because
Yeah.
everybody knows the schemes. So look into the players,
The
look into like
players.
what kind of pre-snap looks you can get, what kind of pre-snap reads you can get. Are there certain tendencies that is there a certain time when the quarterback is looking at a certain receiver every time, and all this and that. And all these cues are there, but then again, it's a different thing to know them than to be able to do something about it. So, but that's going to be very interesting to see how Kalle will line up his defense, because like quite frankly, it's like the weaponry, the weapons that the Wolverines have are just almost unfair. And
Yeah.
it's like you need to really scheme it perfectly in order to keep the Wolverines at any kind of reasonable ball point, like say under 30 or whatever. So that's going to be very interesting to see how Kalle Karpin and the Roosters defense, how they go to fare it.
I agree 100%. That's what I think. Like you have to play the players for the Wolverines, not the scheme. The scheme is simple. I mean, for the first 3 weeks of the season, they only ran like 4 plays, and
Yep,
still were putting up like 40 points a game. So
yep,
it's not the scheme that is the worrisome. It's the players and how do you play them. The Roosters are uniquely qualified to play against this offense on the
hmm
defensive side. What about the Roosters offense versus the Wolverines defense? You saw it in the last game. The Wolverines defense has a lot of speed, and you can't really
yeah.
just simulate that for the Roosters.
Yeah, well, it's like it's different speed. I think like I'm sure that the Roosters defense can, in practice, that they can give a pretty good look, of what the Wolverines defense is, like just by being precise about everything. But I think Lions play is huge here. The Roosters O line has been playing really well. I think
Yeah.
they're blocking. They know what they're doing and they execute. It was beautiful to watch when where they ran their counters and all this stuff. In the last game, and now Curry is becoming a major player in the league. So they should really try to establish their run. I could see them doing well with anything that has a pin and pull in it. It seems to me
Mm-hmm.
that the counters, the traps, the G leads, whatever they are. So that's going to be huge for the Roosters, and then also what they can create out of that. That bring the linebackers a little closer than they would like to be, and try to use the fact that maybe I don't know for sure, but I expect the Wolverines to start the same way they did like you need to get to the safeties, you need to get your receivers to challenge the safeties, and try to make your money of the middle of the field because I think the outsides are going to be pretty locked.
I
There's
think
going to
that's
be
the hardest
yeah,
part
yeah,
is look at the quarterbacks that they're playing against. Like you got Jonathan Baker for the Crocs, you got Seth Peters for the Steelers, and now you got Miro Cadbury. These are all guys who are, you know, 5'10" at most. Like the shorter
yeah,
guys, they usually have trouble getting the ball into the middle of the field for those middle routes because they can't see over the linemen.
yep, yep,
And this last game, you'll see. I mean, the last game the Wolverines played against the Steelers, you saw like Seth constantly was looking outside, even though his guys
yep,
weren't open, but he couldn't see anything
yeah,
in the middle. And I think Miro might have the same situation going against this defensive line where they like to bring pressure up the middle as well. They like to double A gap with their linebackers at times. And
yeah,
I think the slots is where the money is going to be made. And like you said, like you want to get it upfield, up the middle. I'm a little concerned with how they're going to get Miro to get it there if he has to like get outside the pocket to see it. I haven't seen a
hmm,
lot of teams do any type of rollout with their quarterbacks yet.
yeah,
I've only seen the Royals have any type of rollout package, and that's off of
yeah,
play action. But I
yeah,
think I think if the Roosters were to get Miro on the move and kind of move that secondary for the Wolverines, he'd be able to find that middle area a little bit easier. But I don't know if they're going to do that. I haven't seen anything like that yet from him.
yeah. And then also Miro is pretty swift. He runs fast. It's like his own run is a weapon too.
Yeah.
And what he's done this year, what I've been like particularly impressed about is that he's been stepping up the pocket and right until the last moment he's been looking for an open receiver to
Yes,
take
he
him out,
has.
and he has completed passes out of those situations. So he's been very confident, and with what he's done, and then like he's been successful too. So and then obviously Adam Connette is somebody they're going to move around again. I'm sure they'll probably not let somebody just lock on and have him wide out. He's probably being a slot. He's going to be all over the field. So that's a huge key for the game. Also, is for them to be able to use him. He's a great player. So he needs to be made into a weapon in the game.
It's gonna be so interesting. This last thing I'm saying, then we get out of here. It's gonna be so interesting to watch the matchups on both sides. For me
Yeah.
personally, at the skill position, I
Yep.
I'm interested to see how the Roosters receivers go against the Wolverines secondary, and then vice versa. I mean, the
Yeah.
Roosters have one of the best secondaries in the country, and that's what an all Finnish secondary.
Yep.
I think your whole national team is back there, if I'm not mistaken, almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Pretty much.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so they're going up against a lot of like Americans that they're going up against. So that's a challenge for them. Someone that should be playing at a higher level than the national team players. So
Hmm.
just seeing them play at such a high level on both sides, it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be really fun to watch. But I do think both teams have the receiving cores that might get a couple of wins to make it a high scoring game.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I
Yeah.
want to see points. Damn it.
Yes, but like it's almost guaranteed that like the winner is going to score a lot of points in that game.
Yeah.
I don't see a 17-14 here. No way.
No, no way.
So
Someone's scoring at least 30.
unless it's raining like crazy or whatever, like weather could be a factor. I haven't checked the forecast, but obviously if it rains cats and dogs, then it's different. But on a good day, on a good sunny day, there's gonna be points on the board. That's for sure.
Yeah. Everybody's excited for this weekend, the Helsinki Derby, even the other two matchups that are both for jogging position in the rankings right now. Coach Tuomas, appreciate you coming on the show. It's always good to have you, man. We're going to try to have you on here a little bit more as we have a few more episodes going for the rest of the season. Anything you want to say before we get up out of here?
It's I just hope that a lot of people would come to the actual game to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you said, it's 4th of July and it's American football and whatever. So it's like if it's a good day, like it's fun to watch football on TV and sometimes you can't make it to the games, but American football is best entertainment when you see it live at the actual game. So hopefully there's a lot of people watching this game and the other two games too. Yep.
All right, so a little change of direction this week. Coach Q has landed in Finland. Welcome to Finland, Coach Q.
Hey, well, thank you for having me back.
Feels good. TIF.
Hmm.
In reality now, guys, he's in Finland. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about the big game of the weekend: Helsinki Wolverines versus Helsinki Roosters. Let's just get into the matchups because that's what it's really about. Like it's kind of not a David and Goliath type thing, more like a Goliath versus Goliath. So first things first, let's talk Rojo, man. Rojo
Gotcha.
running his offense. What do you think about his offense versus the Roosters?
I think it's more explosive right now. A lot of times it doesn't look in sync, but they just have so many athletes and so many playmakers on the team that they can hit you for the bomb at any time. When Rojo's in that mode of spreading the ball around, I don't think anybody can stop their offense. But we've seen times where they couldn't finish drives, and it just seems like they're just playing catch, pretty much. Like, all right, I'm going to you, I'm going to you. And I think sometimes you need a little more consistency as far as maintaining drives. 12, 13 play drives. Um, Unfortunately for them, usually if they run 12 plays, out of those 12, it's probably 4 touchdowns or something. So Rojo, he's doing his thing. I mean, I don't think we've seen his offense at its best yet, even though they put up points, pretty much every game. I still don't think we've seen like the best they can do. So it'll be exciting to see, how they come out against the Roosters.
I'll say the same thing I said earlier in the season is that I don't think we're ever going to see their best
Mm,
because they have a tendency to when if they get ahead, they like to experiment with doing other things. You saw in the game where Rojo went in at receiver. It was
mm,
unnecessary, it wasn't needed, but it's what they did. And then there's times where early in the game they'll put Jabari in at quarterback and they run a totally different offense. And it's not always needed, but that's what they do when they get ahead in games is they kind of take their foot off the gas and start doing other things without actually, executing as high to the high efficiency that they can. It's
mm-hmm.
like if we're playing a team and they're letting us score, then we're gonna start doing other things instead of working on, making sure that you're better at what you want to get better at and you're developing throughout the season. I mean, this
Exactly.
this offense it's the best offense probably in Europe just because it's in Finland and they have these type players on the same side of the field and they never really reach full potential. And just I mean, we're not trying to bash the Wolverines. I mean, we both agree they're probably the best team in the league. But playing against the Roosters, this is one of them games where you don't want to let the Roosters hang around. We've seen against the Crocodiles and we've seen against the Steelers, the Wolverines come out, play okay early, but not great, and then the other team give them chances to get it going. Like you said, like the offense is a little inconsistent at the beginning of the games, and then once they get going, there's no stopping them. That shit don't work against the Roosters.
Mm.
You cannot let the Roosters hang in the game. Like even the game they lost to the Steelers, you saw that the Steelers had them beat by more than 3 touchdowns at one point in that game, and then they came back and were down by 2. Like that's the
Mm-hmm.
Roosters for you. You can't do that. So I mean, obviously, I still think the Wolverines have the better, team, the better talent. But if Rojo's offense doesn't, click and stay clicking consistently, the Roosters are the type of team that can say, you know what, we're gonna give you a run for your money. And
Yeah.
I think that Rojo's offense versus the Roosters defense, the offense should murder that defense. It really should. But I think it's going to come down more to how Kale Karppinen, the defensive coordinator for the Roosters, how he schemes against Rojo's offense. And I think that Kale is a smart guy and he'll play it the right way. And I
Mm-hmm.
actually asked Coach Tuomas this earlier, so I'm going to ask you too, because this is the biggest question in the league this year is how do you stop the Wolverines offense? So Q, what is your idea of how you would stop the Wolverines offense if you were the Roosters?
Oh man. I say you have to take, I mean, at least one or two of their receivers out of the game. Some kind of way to get some turnovers, keep Rojo off the field. It's a hard task to do, but it's possible. I mean, it's just putting the guys in the right areas at the right time. The Roosters, I think they match up in certain parts of their defense and then certain parts of disadvantage. I think the disadvantage this game will probably be their safeties trying to guard, RJ, uh, whoever else they put in the slot, Marcus Siskinen. Like, I think that's going to be the major task on both sides of the ball, actually, for the Wolverines to match up with their slot receivers. So I think that's going to be a big part of this game is who can match up and who can create some turnovers.
Well, that's actually leading me to what I was going to ask now. Like flipping the side, you have
Mm-hmm.
the Roosters defense. I mean, for the Wolverines offense, it was easy. I just said Rojo's offense. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he's the guy. He does everything. He controls it, comes up to scheme, everything. The Roosters offense, obviously Mikko Koikalainen, the head coach, is calling the plays, but they've shown different ways to be effective this year.
Mm-hmm.
Before the Maple League, Adam Connette was the guy. He was playing running back. He was playing receiver. He was taking kickoffs to the house. Like, he was the guy. As the season got started, they switched him more back into his receiver role, and young Kari comes on, and young Kari is that dude. And he's been
Mm-hmm.
killing it. And he had, 200 yards in the last game, and this last game, you saw Miro kind of break out, 7 touchdown passes. So, and even Namdi Agude, who I mean early in the season, I wasn't impressed with, but they found a way to utilize his height in the red zone recently, and he's been getting a lot of touches and touchdowns. So, I'm missing. I don't want to leave out nobody. Alexander Wasa, Jeff, he's been out there. He's been consistent all season, all year long, being a big play guy for them. And then the young Santu Vekamaki, he's toe tapping Vekamaki. That's what we're
Yep.
calling him now. Toe tapper. He's made some big plays here and there as well. So this Roosters team, at this point of the year, it's easy to say that they're finding their stride, and they look
Exactly.
good. They look way better than they did in the first NEFL game. Like
Mm-hmm.
this team looks totally different. But with this offense and the way that they're kind of clicking now, everybody's kind of being involved. How do you think they go against the Wolverines defense? What do you think they do to be successful on the offensive side?
For the Roosters to be successful, it has to start with Kari first. Um, if Kari has a big game, a few big runs, if they can't stop the run there, it's gonna create some problems for the Wolverines. Um, that then opens up Adam in the slot to get some 1-on-ones. Namdi, he's gonna have his hands full because I'm pretty sure they're probably gonna put TJ on him.
You
So
think so?
I'm about 100% sure TJ is probably going to take him all the way out of the game. At least that's the plan.
That makes sense.
That's what I would do, because you have you have a matchup situation to where you can move Eric inside or outside as far as playing on the slot and playing on the corner. Um, so the Roosters have to get Kari going. I think more than anything, if Kari can't get any plays in the run game, then that just makes it harder for Miro to have to make a lot of plays with his arm.
Yeah, I don't think we want to depend on the Roosters passing first and running second versus this defense.
Yeah.
That's the strength of the Wolverines defense is the defensive backs. So you don't want a team trying to pass on them. You see what the Steelers you see what happened with the Steelers. They weren't able to run, and the pass game just there was no way it was going to work, and it didn't. I think Seth had 115, 116 yards passing against them guys.
Mm-hmm.
So in this game, what's one of the key matchups that you're looking at on both offense, defense for either team?
I think the who O line plays the best. That'll be a big part of it too. Because if Rob doesn't have time, then he has to get rid of the ball, a little faster than normal. Which is he's already like a 1-2 second quarterback, so I
Yeah.
don't think it'll affect him that much. He's used to it. But I think it's the O line. If Miro doesn't have time, Miro's going to do a lot of scrambling, and that's what you don't want to do. I mean, he can run, but you don't want your quarterback out there running that much. If he can make some long drives and make some big plays down the field with his arm, then they'll have a chance. But whoever O line plays the best, I think will win the game.
That makes sense. I think that the Roosters have a decent O line. I have no faith whatsoever in the Wolverines O line, but they have so many dynamic athletes that you don't notice it in these games. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even looking at Will Young, I haven't mentioned him yet, but the way that he runs the football, a lot of times he is actually just outrunning the defense by himself, not necessarily going through holes. He just he changes speeds very quickly and direction, and it is tough to gauge how fast and where he's going and when he's going. He does a lot of advanced movement with setting up his moves and his defenders 2 or 3 moves ahead. Like
Mm-hmm.
Will Young is out here playing chess, guys. Everybody else playing checkers. Like, it is what it is. I don't know if anybody been watching, but the dude playing chess out here, damn near 3-dimensional chess. God damn it, he out here. Uh,
He's doing his thing.
yeah, he. If you watch the O line play from the Wolverines, you would understand that Will Young is one hell of a running back.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm not gonna hold my tongue on this. That O line is horrible, and Rojo makes him look good because, like you said, he gets the ball out quick. I
Mm-hmm.
think one thing that's gonna be, I think a lot of people are gonna miss and not necessarily think about before this game, but I think they'll see it in the game is the special teams. I think the Wolverine special teams is probably their weakness defensively. Not, I mean, they got returners for days.
Yeah.
Charles Ward, R.J. Long, Will Young, Cedric Johnson, Jabari. I mean, all of them could be on the field at the same time, and sometimes are, and they can probably score at any moment on a punt return or a kick return, and that's going to be big for them because it might be a difference in this type of game.
Mm-hmm.
But also, Adam Connette is who he is, and I feel like what we've seen from the Wolverines is their punt team and their kickoff team, they like to use backups. They like to use their domestic guys, and that could be problematic because that's when they get beat is on those things. The Crocodiles took that first kickoff to the crib and then averaged like 40 yards of kickoff after that in that game against them. And even in this last game, the Steelers did decently on return games against them because a lot of times their special teams guys are unsound and unbalanced because they don't really play. They only play
Mm-hmm.
special teams, so they don't have a feel for how somebody runs. Like
Mm-hmm.
Gerard Johnson, if you don't play against Gerard Johnson, you don't know that he can change gears just as well as Will Young. So you take an angle and he breaks it, and that's it. That's one thing they're going to find out playing against Adam Connette is he can break those angles as well. He's a dynamic runner. I really hope the Wolverines don't put their backups out there. And then the other thing on special teams is the extra points, man.
Um,
The Wolverines they just bleeded points. They could have 50 burger every game if they make all the damn extra points, but
yep.
they don't. And I mean, we both know Kale. He probably going to go after them extra points because that could be the difference. If they score 6 touchdowns and only get 2 extra points out of it, that's a 4-point swing. You kick a field goal and you're down by 1 now instead of being down by 7. Like that's the difference. If you're thinking points, guys, that's the difference right there. Is blocking all those extra points and then making them go for 2. Actually, you don't want them going for 2. You prefer they kick the field goal. Shit. But I think the Roosters' kicking game is a little bit more consistent. Actually, Olin can actually kick a 30 or 40-yard field goal if he has to. And actually, they got a new kicker, I think. If I'm not mistaken, the Roosters had a new guy kicking. I don't know his name, though. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't remember his name, but I think he's a young kid though.
Yeah, young kid wearing number 11. I
Mm,
can't remember his name, but I think he's actually doing the like field goal, but actually does the punting. That's another thing that they could do well with the Roosters is their punt team is pretty good. They can flip the field if they really have to, and actually
yeah,
he's done it before. So that's something you got to look out for. And I think that's one of those things that the special teams is one of those like underlying things. I still expect to see Charles Ward be important on that. Big shout out to Charles Ward with the punt block touchdown last week. That was nice. I like the team photo, guys.
yeah,
But he was coming after them punts because he had missed one before barely, and that next one he got it. So that's something that they could do as well. I don't think it'll be as successful against the Roosters because the Roosters are well coached.
yeah. He way
So
more sound. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, the Steelers kind of gave it up. But what else are you interested in? We had about 15 minutes. This sounds about good. But
Mhm.
what else are you interested in this matchup on the 4th of July, man?
Uh, I think it's the history, just the Helsinki Derby history.
Mm,
2 organizations that at one point were always battling. Wolverines are a younger team as far as the Maple League, but they came. They're looked at. Well, the norm for the Wolverines is winning.
yeah.
And I think this is a reminder. This season has been like a reminder to all the Wolverines players, the old players, the fans, even the Roosters fans of what those games were like. Around the time when I first came to Finland, 2009, 2010. The Wolverines and the Roosters have a long history now of having close games, having intense games, and I think these guys have just been looking forward to playing against each other. I think it's a test for both of them, more or less a test for the Wolverines, um, because we know the Roosters, they're never out of any game. You know what I mean? So we've seen them being bent and tested, and they came through. Now it's time to see if the Wolverines are as disciplined as they need to be, and if they get into a close game or if they get down, can they come back up, and put points on the board? So I think it'll be, it's the 4th of July. I think it's American football. It's like I think it's the epitome of a football game this weekend.
Yeah, that's for sure. I'm trying to look it up, and I probably won't be able to find it in time. But if I'm just not mistaken, I'm trying to not be mistaken, but I could be. In the last I want to say 15 years, the only team besides the Butchers and Roosters to win the Maple Bowl is the Helsinki Wolverines, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they won that one year. I mean, and that was after the Butchers had been on a tear, I think, and before the
Yeah.
Roosters started their streak that they're on now. I mean, the
Hmm.
Roosters and the Butchers are the most winning organizations, but the Wolverines are young compared. They started in the 94 or 95 season, something
Hmm.
like that. And since then, they've been successful. Like they're a team that's less than 30 years old, and they've been successful almost the entire time, and
Hmm.
they're used to playing at the highest level. Now that they're back in the Maple League, you see they came in, brought all those new players in because they didn't come to the top level to just be there.
No, they wanted to win.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're on the top level to win, and that's what they're trying to do. And I think this game is going to be evidence of that. Like how this game goes, whether it's a close game or a blowout, it's going to mean something to both teams. If one team loses, to them it's going to mean that other team just took what was ours. They both feel like they deserve the top spot in Helsinki, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean I know that's not really a regional thing like Texas football or SEC or ACC type stuff, but I mean they're still the two teams in Helsinki.
Exactly.
So it is what it is. It's the Helsinki Derby, even if these players have almost no history with each other because they're all from so many different places now. But they're both representing these organizations, and the organizations have a lot at stake. The guys that, like you said, the old heads from both the Wolverines and the Roosters, when they see this game, they're going to be like, "Hey, my team won." It's a
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State versus Michigan Wolverines type situation. If I want to be
Mm-hmm.
so bold to go there, go Buckeyes! But it's gonna be a awesome weekend. I know we're just talking about the Wolverines and the Roosters right now, but even the other two games for the weekend, you got the Crocs and the Royals. The both one team's 2-2, one team's 2-3. So the winner is going to be the fourth place team at the moment. So that game has a lot of implications. They also
Mm-hmm.
have the Saints versus the Butchers. For the Saints, a win could put them in position to not be relegated. For the Butchers, a win could help them say, "Hey, we're actually trying to get into the playoffs." So this weekend is gonna be important in Finland, and I'm excited to see it happen, man.
Yeah, I think we're at that point in the season where a lot of these games are going to matter when it comes to the placement when the playoff time come around. So, it's the last leg, the last stretch. So everybody got to you got to play your best football right now. And I think any of these games actually could. This is the first weekend I think any of these games could go either way.
Yeah.
Like this, I think we've been pretty much sure of who's going to win certain games, but this weekend is like we'll see. Um, after the break, let's see who made adjustments and let's see who's the better teams now.
All right. Well, that's it for us on AFF. The show was a little different this week, but we just mixed it up the way we had to, and I think it's still going to work out. If you heard any, random noises in my background, that's my baby girl Ella Rose. She wanted to get on the show, so she's been back there talking while I'm doing the show, both with you and Tuomas. She has to say some things. She likes to get it off her mind now. She had 3.5 months, so we're happy about that. But everybody, we appreciate y'all guys listening to the show. Sorry we haven't been on in a while. We have technical difficulties, but we got that shit fixed. And now we're going to be here every week. And it's going down here at AFF. Make sure to follow us on, what are we on? Apple Music, Apple iTunes, Apple Podcasts, whatever the apps are. Google Play, Podbean, all the podcast apps on the internet because they just grab our podcasts anyways. Yeah, and keep following us back. Anything else, Q, before we get out of here?
No, that's it, brother. That's all I had. It was a good day, good show.
All right. And never forget,
TIF.
we gone.
We out of here.
American football in Finland.